Farah Hanoun for MMA Junkie, and I'm joined by UFC bantamweight Cory Sandhagen, who takes on Aljamain Sterling this Saturday at UFC 250. Cory, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How you settled in Las Vegas and everything? Have you been tested yet?
Yeah, I got tested. It was just the throat one. It wasn't the nose one, thank God, because the nose one looked terrible. And yeah, we're good. I mean, we can't really do too much. We're not really supposed to leave the hotel and stuff. So, yeah, just kind of hanging out playing video games.
Cool, cool. And big matchup, of course, against Aljamain. But I wanted to ask you first, were you surprised that it wasn't the co-main event, that they went with Garbrandt and Assunção?
Yeah, that surprised me. That was a little lame, in my opinion. But I also know that like the UFC is a business that has to make money, and Garbrandt's a much bigger name than I think me and Sterling both are. So, I mean, that's what that was motivated by. But yeah, weird, definitely weird.
Do you worry about the implications of that fight? You know, Garbrandt, former champion, you said he's a big name, that maybe the billing of that fight, if he gets a big knockout or something, that somehow he could leapfrog the winner of you and Aljamain?
Yep, that's a possibility. Definitely a possibility. And I don't know. I think it depends. It's going to be nice because we have so many bantamweight fights on this card that it's going to be really nice to just have like a clear cut, simple, like who looked better because all the fights are back to back to back. So although I know that Garbrandt's a bigger name, I think that I also have a really impressive style, and I think that my fighting is really exciting to watch. And I think that the UFC is going to be able to see that, especially now that me and Assunção and Garbrandt's fight is just back to back to ours. So I'm excited about that.
And quite a bit has changed with Henry Cejudo's retirement. Now they're going with Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. Were you surprised with that matchup being the one for the vacant title?
Yeah, that was also weird, but like I said, Aldo's a huge name. And I don't really necessarily maybe see it as it could be too much of a terrible thing, only because whether Jan wins or Aldo wins, whatever, that's a pretty huge. Aldo's a pretty huge name, and I think that it also draws a lot of attention to the division. So either one of them, it doesn't matter. I plan on beating Sterling on Saturday, and then hopefully fighting for that belt in the fall time. So whether Jan beats Aldo or Aldo beats Jan, it doesn't matter. That's just that's one less, or that's just more hype on the division anyways, and then that gives me more hype going into the fight in fall anyways. So it's all good, like people get really caught up, I think, in the whole like, oh, this guy's a big name, they're really hyping this guy up, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, like, if you beat that person, all the hype is on you too, so that's kind of the route that I feel like I'm having to take, is where I'm not necessarily maybe getting as much attention as I possibly should in the division. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what people are telling me. But at the same time, like, Sterling's a fairly big name, and if I beat him, then I also turn into a really big name too. So it's all good.
There is a bit of more clarity now. I mean, for the last couple of times I spoke to you, it was like it could have been Sterling or not. There was a bit of uncertainty. Obviously, you had the Edgar fight way back. It's good now that there's a little bit of clarity with Henry retiring. At least you guys know kind of the implications of your fight with Sterling and what could come next.
Yeah. I love that Henry left. I'm pumped that Henry left. He was like his personality was annoying to me. I know that it wasn't real, but it was annoying to me. And I think his choices in Aldo and Cruz were also lame. But I also see the argument too. That, I mean, he wanted to sell pay-per-view buys, and he wanted to beat a couple legends and then take off. Like, I get it. But he was annoying. So yeah, I'm really glad that he's gone. And although they chose Jan and Aldo, I'm still not stressing about it. I still think I'm fighting for a belt at some point this year, whether it's fall or the end of the year or whatever. I'm not stressing. Like, I've been doing really good, and I've been getting really good matches. Like, the UFC is still giving me really good matchups and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, this is only my 6th fight in the UFC. So I'm still comfortable, I'm still okay with what's going on.
What are your thoughts on fighting the 25-foot cage? Have you gotten a chance to train in something similar in Denver, or whether in Vegas when you touched down?
Yeah, so I actually checked out the cage yesterday. And yeah, it definitely feels much smaller than the 30-foot one. The 30-foot one is it feels enormous. Like you have plenty of space to do everything. And there was a lot of finishes in the smaller divisions last week at the last card, and I think that cage has something to do with it, because when I was standing in there, I was like, as far as square footage goes in a circle, 5 feet is a lot, so there's going to be a lot less square footage in there, and I think it's going to make for a lot more action. But I also appreciate that too, because you're playing with it. It feels like you just have to have this heightened sense of intensity and sharpness to you, because there isn't a lot of room for you guys to move around. So you're going to be pretty close to each other the entire time, whether you like it or not. And it's definitely going to change, I think, for however long they're doing these in Vegas. It's going to change some stuff, I think, with at least the finishing rate, until they go back to 30 feet.
And what are your thoughts on the style matchup with Aljamain Sterling? It's been a while since he's fought, but I'm sure you've seen his last couple of fights. How do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, I like it. We both bring in the same advantages. He's tall and rangy. I like to move my feet. He likes to move his feet. He's a bit awkward. I would say that's kind of where we maybe differ a little bit. Is he's a little bit less technical, but he still makes it work for him. So there's a lot of uncertainty going into a fight. Like you're always like, all right, well, how good of a guy? How good is he actually really? Because sometimes that's hard to see on film. Sometimes you see guys in fights and you're like, how is this guy winning time after time after time? And then because they don't look very technical and they don't look very impressive, but they're winning, you know. And Aljamain's been winning, so there's something that's got to be to him that I must not see, because on paper I think that I'm the more impressive fighter than he is. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think it's going to kind of get cleared up. Usually it does in the first 1 or 2 minutes of the fight, and then we'll adjust if we have to adjust, or just keep doing what we're doing if that's what needs to happen too.
Elevation fight team has been on fire with Justin Gaethje's win, Drew Dober, Alistair Overeem, Neil Magny recently. He's sharing the same card with you now. What's it just been like riding that wave of momentum to see all your teammates do so well?
Yeah, it's great. We're obviously doing something right. I don't really know what we're doing right. We've been kind of doing the same thing for the last couple of years. Maybe just all of the doing things right is kind of catching up, and it's equaling success now. Feels good though. I mean, it's really nice, because I feel really fortunate, because other people on other teams that don't maybe have the same caliber guys, or are having as big of fights as our guys are, and they're winning, don't really get a huge confidence spike, you know. Like we get to have a good amount of a confidence spike, because it's like, oh, this guy right next to me who I'm training with and helping out, and he's helping me out, he's winning. So I mean, that is it just adds more certainty, because one of the more stressful things of fights is just, are you actually as good as you think that you are? You know, and when other people around you are having a lot of success, it kind of adds to that confidence.
And I'm going to ask you one last question. I appreciate your time. You're not much of a prediction guy, at least from what I remember when I asked you how you think a fight is going to play out. But do you feel like there's a little bit of a chip on your shoulder to perform, to make a statement, just so you could kind of make it yourself the clear cut next in line for the title shot?
Oh, absolutely. I have a chip on my shoulder, one, because this whole Jan Aldo thing is a little annoying. Us not being the co-main event is a little annoying. Although I understand the arguments for both of them, I feel like I'm being a little bit left out when I'm having really impressive fights against really impressive guys. So I'm excited I've been having a little bit more of a fire in me. I think it's because there's a very, very real possible chance that I'm going to be fighting for a belt after this one. So it feels like I'm just at hand's reach, you know, away from just being able to snag that. And it wasn't like that before. And the chip on the shoulder is just me kind of being like, man, like, I think it's a little bit of my ego, but it wants to have some recognition. It wants to have validation from other people, and I try not to live in that world, but I do a little bit, and I want that. I want to show everyone that I'm better than all of these guys. Like, as a competitor, me myself, I'm a really competitive guy when it comes to fighting. Um, and the competitor in me doesn't like being told that other people are better than me. Like, I don't like that, and I want to show everyone that they're not, and I want to kind of shut everyone up a little bit, and be like, all right, this guy's the actual real deal, and he's better than everyone, and there's no doubt about that, and that's what I want, and that's not going to happen just this fight. It's not going to happen in just the next one, whether it's for a belt or not. It's going to come from me beating every single person in the division relentlessly until there's no question in anyone's head that I'm one of the best.